So yeah, I'm fat, or plus size if you want to get all technical about it. Now, me simply acknowledging the fact that I am fat, which is a little awkward, is not inherently self-deprecating or even really negative at all. It took me a really long time to realize that the word fat literally means nothing. Fat is neutral. It's just a descriptor. When I was little, well, I've never been little, but when I was younger, I went to a tiny Christian school where everyone's biggest fear was looking like me. Because being fat is terrifying and super scary. I couldn't even tell you how many times I was talking about my weight in front of my classmates, and they'd say something like, "Oh no, you're not fat, you're beautiful." But then the very next day, they'd be in the locker room and they'd talk about how fat they are right in front of me. I mean, you probably already know this, but you really shouldn't tell a fat person that they aren't fat. And they're actually pretty, because this perpetuates the idea that a fat person cannot be both fat and pretty. For a really long time in a ton of different countries, being fat was the beauty standard because it meant they were rich enough to be fat. The term plus size wasn't even used in fashion until the late 1920s, but even then it hardly stuck until the 1940s and 50s. Plus size representation has always sucked, but personally I'd rather have none than what I see on the websites I shop from. Most plus size models literally just look like fatter Kardashians. And not only does the representation suck, the choices do too. I don't know if you've ever been to a Torrid, but everything there is shockingly ugly. I mean, do I even have to explain myself? Like, who told Torrid that fat people like flowers that much? I mean, I like flowers, and every fat person that I know likes flowers, but that doesn't mean anything. Okay, yeah, Torrid sells ugly clothes, but the main problem with Torrid is that their clothes are super expensive for no apparent reason. It's really difficult for a fat person to buy clothes that are 1, not ugly, 2, not expensive, and 3, ethically sourced. I can't imagine the struggle of finding clothes as a plus-size woman in the 40s or 50s, especially considering that they only just started acknowledging that some people need bigger clothes. It's a little hard to blame the early fashion industry on the lack of size variation available, especially since a lot of studies on size were conducted during the Great Depression where the lack of food was a major issue. But you wouldn't think it would take them literally never to figure it out. There are a lot of concepts and stereotypes of fat people in the media outside of just plus-size fashion. To name a few tropes, the token fat friend, the fat animated villains, the sassy black woman, the funny and kind of dumb fat guy, the fat woman who loses a ton of weight and now she's hot, and skinny characters who get made fun of for gaining like 5 pounds. I'm not saying that all of these characters suck or even that I dislike the characters. But the bulk of the representation of fat people in movies or TV shows fall into at least one of these categories, and often lead to the fat character in question being the butt of the joke or being evil and undesirable. A lot of things factor into weight, and your cultural background or socioeconomic status could be a factor in how much a person weighs, but definitely not as much as genetics play into it. You could have two people from the same socioeconomic status buying the same foods and having relatively similar lives, but one of them weighs more than the other. A lot of fat people don't really do anything to be fat, like the media says they do. Maybe they just had a baby, or they're in a tough spot financially and can't afford healthier foods. Or maybe they have a health issue that's keeping them at a higher weight. My point is, you never know someone's circumstances, and shouldn't be too quick to judge on someone's appearance. Even if they don't have a reason to be fat, you don't have to tell them that they're gonna get heart disease or something, cause they probably already know that. I don't know a single girl who doesn't have some sort of issue with her body, and it's only getting worse as social media just gets bigger and bigger. While there is a global awareness that body issues exist, there is not a global caring for it. Word of mouth might help change that. As one person, there's not much I can do to help stop body image issues alone, but spreading awareness in large numbers and by talking about it and lifting people up maybe could help. Just like I'm doing right now. Well, not really, it's a cartoon version of me talking about it.